Alright, today I totally dropped the ball on the whole LitMas thing. That was good. Sorry. So instead of doing one video for each day, because obviously we're on day 11, I've decided to kind of do 3 days at a time in one video, and then the next video will be 3 days at a time, and then so on. So there'll be 4 videos. I'm going to basically film them all right now. I'll put the first 2 out today, and I'll put 2 out tomorrow. Which is good, sorry. 2 out today, 2 out tomorrow, so that I can participate in LitMas, because I think it's really cool. I've been watching a lot of them. I just have been lazy, slash my first year teaching, so I'm just trying to get the semester finished. Was kind of insane. So let's go ahead and get started. This video will be days 1 through 3. So day 1 is my favorite poem. And because I'm a real professional, I don't have it picked out of my anthology yet. I know which one it is, but now you have to sit here and watch me find it. Which will be great. Definitely not going to edit this out, because there's nothing more compelling than watching a grown man flip through a book. Everyone knows that. And it's been agreed that this is quality entertainment. Alright. Perfect. So my favorite poem is My Papa's Waltz by Theodore Rothke. And I might be butchering his name. So let me read it to you. It's fairly short. I think it's like 17 lines. My Papa's Waltz. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pans slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm kicked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. The reason I like this poem is I think it's kind of great to illustrate some of the ambiguity inherent in poetry. I know this one is a famous example of people can read the same poem and get 2 different things from it. I've read this to classes of students. I've been in classes where professors of mine have read it and asked what people thought the poem was about. And usually about half the people think it's about child abuse, and the other half think it's just a good time hanging out with, kind of a salt of the earth family. So it really could go either way. I've seen it both ways. And this is an instance where I think you can also show the lesson that it doesn't always necessarily matter what the author intended, because we all bring our own experiences to a work. And so that can change the way we read them or perceive them. So this is, I like it as an image of just kind of a rough father figure playing with his son and enjoying those last moments before bed. And I think it's an interesting opportunity to examine how differently we can perceive things. So yeah, that's my favorite poem. Could have gone with Neruda. There was a bunch of Langston Hughes, a bunch of Whitman. But that one always I come back around to more than all the others. There's just something about it that I dig. I get it. I like it. All right. So now we're on LitMas day 2, which is going to be my favorite flash fiction, which I did not know what that was until watching Adrian's video, and luckily he explained it. So that is going to be a piece of writing under 1,000 words, I believe is how he explained it. So I could have gone with a lot of Hemingway, and I was very tempted. But instead, I decided to pick what I think is a very funny, and I think fairly obscure story by Kafka that is super short. And again, you get the benefit of watching me flip through a book because, as a professional, I find my passages while filming. All right. Don't try this at home, kids. Highly trained. All right, so this piece is called Poseidon. Oh my god. So it's a really short story by Kafka. You can see it's basically like one page, maybe. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it because I can. Poseidon sat at his desk going over the accounts. The administration of all the waters gave him endless work. He could have had as many assistants as he wanted, and indeed he had quite a number. But since he took his job very seriously, he insisted on going through all of the accounts again himself, and so his assistants were of little help to him. It cannot be said that he enjoyed the work. He carried it out simply because it was assigned to him. Indeed, he had frequently applied for what he called more cheerful work. But whenever various suggestions were put to him, it turned out that nothing suited him so well as his present employment. Needless to say, it was very difficult to find him another job. After all, he could not possibly be put in charge of one particular ocean. Quite apart from the fact that in this case the work involved would not be less, only more petty, the great Poseidon could hold only a superior position. And when he was offered a post unrelated to the waters, the very idea made him feel sick. His divine breath came short, and his brazen chest began to heave. As a matter of fact, no one took his troubles very seriously. Excellent. When a mighty man complains, one must pretend to yield, however hopeless the case may seem. No one ever really considered relieving Poseidon of his position. He had been destined to be god of the sea since time immemorial, and that was how it had to remain. What annoyed him most, and this was the chief cause of discontent with his job, was to learn of the rumors that were circulating about him. For instance, that he was constantly cruising through the waves with his trident, instead of which, here, he was sitting in the depths of the world's ocean, endlessly going over the accounts, an occasional journey to Jupiter being the only interruption of the monotony, a journey, moreover, from which he invariably returned in a furious temper. As a result, he had hardly seen the oceans, save fleetingly during his hasty ascent to Olympus, and had never really sailed upon them. He used to say that he was postponing this until the end of the world, for then there might come a quiet moment when, just before the end, having gone through the last account, he could still make a quick little tour. So I think it's hilarious. Like the idea of Poseidon is just so busy filling out paperwork and doing clerical stuff that he hasn't had time to tour the oceans that he is in charge of. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about it. It's just hilarious to me. All right. So day 3. My favorite short story. So for this, I had to think a lot about it. There are a lot of short stories that I really, really enjoy. And I'm always finding more. I think the short story is definitely, it's an underappreciated form, especially on YouTube or BookTube. Although more and more it seems like people are talking about it, at least in my corner of BookTube. And I think it's arguably a harder form to master than long form fiction, just because you have to get across all this stuff in a short amount of time, and when you read like a really masterful short story, it's a kind of transcendent experience. So my favorite short story, and this is not surprising to anybody who knows me, is a Hemingway short story. George Saunders had a couple that were in consideration. Raymond Carver had a few. There were many short stories. Baldwin has one or two that would fall into this category, but the one that won out, just because I keep going back to it and I find something about it to be charming, is A Clean, Well-Lighted Place by Ernest Hemingway, which is basically the story of a old man drinking in a cafe past closing time and two waiters arguing about like how annoying it is that he stays. A younger waiter who finds it very frustrating, and an older waiter who empathizes with the old man. And it ends with one of the weirder, but I think great passages out of a short story, which is the older waiter going to another bar and reciting the Lord's Prayer, but replacing most of the words with the word nada. And I think that perfectly kind of wraps up a lot of Hemingway's worldview, at least at that point in his life. And there's just something about this story and the idea that there are times where, you have to sit in a clean, well-lighted place to find solace or to make it through the night. There's something about that I just find charming and interesting. So that is my favorite short story. So like I said, that was the first 3 days of LitMas. So I will be filming days 4, 5, and 6 in another video, 7, 8, and 9 in a third video, and then 10, 11, and 12 in a fourth video. That way I can still talk about all 12 days, but you don't have to sit through and click on 12 different videos that are all coming out at the same time. This kind of condenses it for you. All right, thanks for watching.